Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a pretty unique case file. It's an identity audit, really, and it's all about one big question. What's the real difference between a personal name and a job title? All right, let's just jump right in. The entire case we're looking at today, it all boils down to this one simple question. Think about it in legal terms. Is a job title, say manager, the same thing as a legal name like John Smith? The source material we're pulling from says absolutely not. And, that single idea is the foundation for everything we're about to explore. So, to build this argument, the source material doesn't kick things off with ancient texts or historical records. Nope. It starts with two really simple analogies. Think of them as the frame for the whole picture. And this first analogy, wow, it really cuts right to the chase. It paints this picture of an architect who signs his name, Jehovah, all over the blueprints. It's his signature, it's permanent. Then, way later, a new manager comes along and says, just call him the boss. And that title, the boss, is presented as a law. See the conflict there? It's the original signature versus a new job title. Okay, so keeping that architect analogy in your head, let's look at the first piece of evidence the case file presents. It's a direct head-to-head comparison. Jehovah versus Allah. Now, the argument here is all about the words themselves. The source says Jehovah is a proper noun, like a specific name for a specific person. But Allah, it argues, comes from the Arabic al-Ilah, which literally just means the God. It's a title, not a name. So you've got a personal signature on one hand and a job description on the other. That's the core of this exhibit. Next, the case file brings in the hard evidence. We're talking archaeology. The goal here is to establish which name showed up first. They point to things like the Mesha stele, this ancient stone slab from 840 BCE, and guess what? Even Israel's enemies were using the name Jehovah. Then you have the Ketef Hinnom silver scrolls, the oldest Bible fragments ever found, and yep, the name is there too. All of this centuries before the Quran was recorded using the title Allah. And what about this number? Over 7,000. That's a big deal. According to the source, that's how many times the name Jehovah shows up in the original Hebrew scriptures. The argument is that's not an accident. That kind of repetition hammers home its importance. It's just like that architect, right? Signing his name on the blueprints again and again and again. Okay, so this is a crucial piece of evidence. The source calls it the forever clause. It's a quote from Exodus where God supposedly says, "This is my name forever." Think of it like a legal contract. It's a binding declaration. And the contract term? It's forever, for every single generation. So that brings us to a pretty pointed question from the source material. If God himself declared a name forever, well, when did forever end? All right, now the audit shifts gears. We're moving on to Exhibit B. This isn't about ancient stones or word origins anymore. This is about roles, about relationships. We're now looking at the distinction between Jehovah and Jesus. And here's the second big analogy they use. It's pretty clever. Picture this. Jehovah is the giant raw power plant, the source of all the electricity. You can't just plug your phone into that, right? So Jesus is the transformer on the street corner. He's the interface that steps down that immense power so we can actually use it in our homes safely. One is the source, the other is the interface. And to back up this idea of a hierarchy, the source material goes straight to the words of Jesus himself. When he says, "The Father is greater than I am," it's presented as Exhibit A for this argument, a clear statement of rank, separating his role from the Father's. So check out this table. The source basically lays it all out like an org chart from a company. You've got the Father, Jehovah, in the architect or source role. He's the one who sends, and he knows everything. Then you've got the Son, Jesus, as the mediator or interface. He's the one who is sent, and according to this, he does not know everything. It's a pretty stark breakdown of authority and function. The case file then goes back to that legal-style argument. It brings up the definition of a mediator. The scripture says Jesus is the mediator between God and humans. Well, by definition, right, a mediator has to be a separate third party. You can't be the mediator between me and you if you are me or you. It's a logical point they're making here. This next point is pretty fascinating. The audit even breaks down the name Jesus. It goes back to the Hebrew original Yeshua, and the source material claims this isn't just a name, it's basically a sentence. It translates to Jehovah is salvation. So the argument is that Jesus' very name points back to Jehovah as the one providing the salvation. And that brings up another logical question. The scriptures are full of accounts of Jesus praying to God. So think about it. If Jesus is God, who is he talking to? Can you be both the person praying and the one being prayed to at the same time? It's a question designed to make you think about the mechanics of it all. Okay, we're coming to the final piece of the puzzle here. The last bits of evidence all revolve around one central idea, which the source calls the salvation protocol. Think of it like a set of instructions pulled straight from the scriptures. And it's all about the sequence. It's presented as a three-step process. Step 1, the Old Testament sets the rule. Everyone who calls on the name of Jehovah will be saved. Got it? Step 2, the New Testament confirms it, repeating that exact same rule. And step 3, Jesus himself tells his followers to pray, "Our Father, let your name be sanctified." The argument is that this protocol directly links salvation to that specific name, and Jesus reinforces it. And that brings us to the closing argument. The source material wraps everything up, summarizing all its points and bringing us right back to the beginning. So, the case rests. And it does so by going back to that very first analogy. After all the evidence, the linguistics, the archaeology, the org charts, it all comes down to a choice. Are you going to follow the permanent signature of the original architect or the job title given by a later manager? And so, this whole audit leaves us with one big question to chew on. What's really in a name? What is the relationship between a name and an identity? Is it just a convenient label we use, or does it contain the very essence of who someone or something is? That's the thought we'll leave you with.